right here, you are going to witness an absolute spectacle. So what happens next? Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready?
All right. As the marksman used to say, let's do this like Judas. I'm coming on here with Halloween Streams number 3. So this time I'm going to talk about Nope by Jordan Peele, 2022. Apparently, filming this movie starring Daniel Kaluuya, apparently that prevented Daniel Kaluuya from being in Wakanda forever. So I don't know if I'll be able to forgive him for that, but, you know, Wakabi was who he played in Black Panther, was T'Challa's best friend. And in the comics, he was under Roy Thomas, he was a lieutenant of his armies, and under Don McGregor, he was this indispensable guy he bounced philosophy off of. And I think they captured a little bit of both in the first movie. Kaluuya is a motherfucker of an actor. Excuse my language. I've seen him in 5 or 6 things. I still have yet to see Judas and the Black Messiah, which I do need to see because I am a big fascinated with and support the ideas of the Black Panthers then and now. So the story of Fred Hampton is a tragic one. I want to see how it was treated on screen by 2 great actors, Daniel Kaluuya, who's, you know, several years older than Fred Hampton was when he was assassinated by an alphabet agency or 2. And like Keith Stanfield also plays in it as the Black Panther who sells him out against the Judas. You know, like Keith Stanfield was also in Jordan Peele's Get Out in a supporting role, and Daniel Kaluuya was the star. Now, I've done a review of Get Out. I did a science fiction special of sorts, and I did a Get Out and Logan double feature from early 2017, 2 things that were science fiction-ish and weird and different, and both were, you know, defied genre expectations, and both got Oscar nominations and acclaim, and crossed over genres. You know, Logan was going to be mainstream from the outset, and it crossed over into the non-mainstream people's interest. Get Out came out of nowhere and went into the mainstream. So, Get Out to me is a modern classic. I love it dearly. Have it on Blu-ray. Us, the next film by Jordan Peele, I felt was beautifully shot. I think Lupita Nyong'o is, first of all, one of the most beautiful women on earth. Second of all, an incredible actress. The concept to me wasn't fully realized. It was almost stretching incredulity a bit much, even within a Twilight Zone-ish kind of vibe, milieu, whatever have you. I know what that kind of atmosphere is what Peele likes, and but he likes bringing it to the modern day and making idiosyncratic and memorable characters, especially minorities, mainly African American characters that African Americans can relate to, but also everyone can relate to who's not a fucking racist scumbag. And of course, he succeeded brilliantly with Get Out. I think Us succeeded too. I felt like Winston Duke was a weak. I have nothing against Winston Duke. I liked him in Black Panther. I haven't seen him in anything else. I have some interviews. He seems like a cool dude. I felt he was a weak pair with Lupita, but maybe that was the point for her to be like the star as a vehicle for her. She certainly deserves it. So even though cinematically I enjoyed the movie and liked some scenes, I felt, especially when they had the invasion of the white people's house, that was amusing and violent. And but I believe that Nope is a step forward, above Us, step back to the quality of Get Out. I don't like it as much as Get Out. The ending kind of left me a little cold. But let me talk about it a little. So I believe that this movie is basically giving us a weird situation. So you have a thing called I think it's Hayward's Hollywood Horses. These people are out in the middle of nowhere in California, and they have a ranch, and they train horses for use in movies. It's a brother and a sister, OJ and damn, what was her name? I'm gonna look it up because I do want to. I'll put some details in the description too, like I did for my last video. But but I just feel more comfortable probably um, speaking more authoritatively about this because it is a little bit a better movie than Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 was. So, all right. So here's the deal. If I can get to it. Um, I Keke Palmer, who I was not familiar with. She plays what's this character's name? I like when they do the cast in here. That would be helpful. Um, good pictures of Emerald. Oh yeah, Emerald. Okay, so there's Otis Haywood Jr. and Emerald M. Haywood, and then Otis Senior is played by the incredible Keith David. Now, he's the first character we see, and we hear that great, awesome voice of Keith David's, and he is truly one of the great underappreciated actors. This is a small cast. They keep it tight, but man, they're all awesome. So, yeah, they run this ranch, and OJ is a very kind of stoic, taciturn guy. He doesn't act like any other character that Kaluuya's played, and every character he's played has had different mannerisms, different body language, different accents. The only thing I've seen him in where he uses his real speaking accent, which is British, was in a great Black Mirror episode he starred in. I can't recall the name of it, but it's one of the very best, and it was the very first one that my ex-fiance described to me and as one I needed to see. She got me into that series, and we watched the whole series together. Later, I watched the short follow-up series, which had my favorite episode, Striking Vipers, with Howard Mackey and what's his name? Yahya Abdul-Mateen. Two of my favorite younger African-American actors working today. Howard Mackey, of course, being the Falcon, and aka Captain America, and Yahya playing a variety of iconic roles, such as Morpheus in Matrix reboot or resequel, and Watchmen. He played Dr. Manhattan, and he also played Black Manta in Aquaman, and he played the new Candyman in Candyman. So he's an incredible. That show though was an amazing subversion of the expectations of those kind of actors, bringing the baggage of those kind of shows they were in, hyper masculine, super heroics, and there got two guys who play these wish fantasy video games, and there's a sexual thing that attraction that starts to develop between them. It's deep. I don't know who directs it. I've totally forgotten. Probably the creator of Black Mirror. I have forgotten his name. I'm not much use, am I? But it was awesome. Very, very powerful. Anyway, so let's get back to Kaluuya. So Kaluuya was in a Black Mirror using his British accent, but he's, used mostly an American English accent, English as in American, he's speaking American English, just an American accent. And, he speaks very much like a contemporary African American guy would in this, and in Get Out. But they're two very different characters. They're and of course in Wakanda Forever. I mean Black Panther. He plays Wakabi, who has a Wakandan accent. They all have African accents in the Black Panther. It's kind of like how all the Asgardians have British accents in Thor movies and Avengers movies. So Kaluuya is a motherfucker. I don't know what he sounds like as Fred Hampton. I'm excited to see. Did I mention he was nominated for Best Actor for Get Out? That's important, really. If he never gets nominated again, at least he's had that. Oh, he was also in Sicario. Played an American character, but again, totally different style. He was a soldier, kind of a laid-back guy, a good friend of Emily Blunt's character, liked to drink together. Really strong supporting performance that predates Get Out. And Nope, he is very, he owns and inhabits that character. The character's very circumspect. He's reserved. He's a little paranoid. He knows his trade inside out as far as the horses and the film industry. He loves his father, and his father is, I believe, the grandson of the man who is riding on the horse in the very first moving kind of picture that we've seen famously throughout our lives. Well, at least older us and backward. I don't know if any Zoomers would know these images. Maybe if they are, cool. Of Edvard Muybridge's early photographic studies that he would use and try to move them or whatever. And they were panels, almost like comic panels. He did a lot of nude humans, but he also did a black man on a horse, a human on a horse, but he was clothed. The naked people were white. So this guy was like dressed like a jockey. And that was kind of an iconic image. So in the movie, that is the iconic image that the character Emerald, OJ's sister, venerates. And especially after their father, Otis Sr., Keith David, is killed early on, and he's killed by flotsam plummeting to earth at a huge velocity, like it's coins and shit. It smashes into his eye and is lodged into his skull here, and he dies. Not immediately, but he does die. Over a period of a half hour or so, you get to know these characters. It's a very specific kind of story. He's created a very specific little world, it's kind of has to do with the movie industry, but it also has to do with, black people and their advancement, trying to make it, and having pride in their heritage. In this case, their horse wrangling and their part in history. And that's something important to Keke. And but then you have a character played by Steven Yeun. This character is named, I should know this, of course, Jupiter, Jupe. His real name is Ricky Park. Now, he has a fascinating kind of side story. So this movie starts off just kind of gradually building the Haywood family, but then they meet Ricky, or Jupe, who has a theme park called Jupiter's Claim. Cool name. And he is an Asian American who dresses like a cowboy. It really reminded me of this whole shift to the introduction of him and his personality reminded me a little bit of Buck Swope in Boogie Nights, played by the great Don Cheadle, who's now War Machine. And he was an affable guy, but there's these little flashes, like flashbacks, because they start talking about how he has always been in Hollywood, Jupe. He was a child actor, and he played a character named Mikey on this show called Gordy's Home, I believe. Mikey Houston, on Gordy's Home. Now, this is a weird and important plot point. It's important in the sense that he's building a world. It's like a Robert Altman, and Paul Thomas Anderson kind of thing. You have a small amount of characters, but you're kind of building a world around each one of them, and they're all drawn into the main conceit of the film, which is observance of flying saucer UFOs. And OJ is his eyes speak volumes. He's very, like I said, circumspect about this. His sister wants to capture it on camera and, maybe draw attention to their ranch and make a little bit of money. I know some people who have seen the film, people who I really, really respect their opinion, actually, who felt that angle was mercenary and maybe too played up. I would disagree with that. I thought it was fairly low key. I mean, it may seem like a big deal because Keke Palmer plays Emerald as this extremely hyper crazy with it kind of chick who with this eccentric wardrobe, and you really can't tell if she's straight or gay or bohemian or a gangsta. Her personality is all over the map, but she's bubbling with enthusiasm in life. Very pretty girl, very distinctive but not striking. Very down to earth. Great. Again, someone who really inhabited a character. I know nothing about Keke Palmer, so I'm going to assume she's nothing like Emerald. So Jordan takes these characters and he crafts them really carefully around the actors, like he did in Get Out, and to a lesser extent. Now, Stephen Yeun played. First of all, Stephen Yeun played in a movie called Mayhem. That's a horror film that I may or may not review in my streams for Halloween. I have watched it recently. That was the first time I'd seen him in a feature. The first time I saw him in anything was in one of the early episodes of Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone series. I only watched the first 4 episodes. He played this very strange, mysterious stranger. He was intense. Nothing like the kind of wacky, comedic, irreverent character in Mayhem. And he's got a little bit of that in this one, that humor, but he's also got this trauma under the surface. And what we learn with his backstory, and of course, he's the one they want to kind of work with, because Jupiter's Claim is in the same general area, way out in the boonies near their house, their ranch, somewhat. And I mean, within reasonable walking distance. And he hasn't really had any shows there recently. He does them with his wife. She's Caucasian. Her name is Amber. Is that right, Amber? I just like this movie much. I want to give it the right props. Our actress is Ren Schmidt. Amber, yeah, she's Jeep's wife. And so this is all kind of whirling around Emerald's idea here. I mean, they're stunned that they believe these are definitely extraterrestrials, and they begin to believe it's not a ship; it's actually a being that moves through the clouds, like a large, some weird extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional animal. So they encounter the other two important characters. One is named Angel Torres. He works at Fry's Electronics, and he brings them up for some stuff they buy to set up their rig to try to record the UFO movement and sightings. Emerald has a massive plan, and OJ just kind of stoically goes along with it. He has a favorite horse. I don't know if they mention. Don't know if they mention the horse actor. I love animal actors, so I don't. They don't see him credited. Damn it. But anyway, I forgot the character, the horse's name. But like I said, OJ begins to believe, that it's alive, that it's an animal. He calls it Jean Jacket. I don't know why. The print I watched was on Plex, and to be honest, my Plex system, as it comes through my stuff, is very low in volume. I have to really strain, and it doesn't have subtitles usually. So there are plot points that I'm slightly fuzzy on. Feel free to correct me or laugh at my ignorance. But Donna Mills, the great Donna Mills from Knots Landing, and probably about 80 now, she has a cameo as Bonnie Clayton, a commercial, an actress in a commercial that OJ is on the set of, and I think Jupe as well maybe is on the set of. So I'm going to get into Jupe's backstory in just 1 second. To me, it's the coolest part of the movie. Anyway, Angel Torres does believe in UFOs, and he watches stuff on YouTube about UFOs and unexplained phenomena and paranormal activity. He's a retail guy. I mean, I work in a similar kind of store. I immediately related to him. I kind of think he was a little attracted to Emerald, but he never really makes a move. He talks about how his extremely beautiful girlfriend dumped him, and she thought she was too good for him. She was like a minor actress in the area. And he's just a young, kind of semi-hipster Hispanic dude. And he's a cool guy. Again, very humanistic. And he quickly bonds. At first, they're a little annoyed with him, and he with them a little bit. But he comes out to the ranch to help set up the equipment, and he bonds with siblings and becomes part of this enterprise. So they've gotten Jupe interested. Like I said, going to get right back to him. The final character is Michael Wincott as this cat named Antlers. And I forgot his last name. Antlers is a trippy name. Antlers Holst. He's a renowned photographer. Now, I haven't seen Wincott in any recent films. He has really aged. I don't know how old he is. He has been one of my favorite character actors, definitely from the 80s and 90s. And for a long time, he had extremely long, straight, really beautiful hair. Uh, you probably remember him as the main villain in The Crow. You probably remember him as, I know he's in some westerns. He was in Oliver Stone's incredible talk radio in the late 80s as this just psycho metalhead kid who, was playing a character a bit younger than himself, of a Beavis and Butthead-ish kind of cat. But his voice is very mannered and deep and rich and, kind of measured, a little sinister, a little tiny bit southern. He's got this amazing voice. And that anything he's in, he's just a joy to watch. So his hair is really short now. He's balding a little back here, but he's got a really cool cropped haircut. He's gray, and he's got a goatee mustache deal. He looks very weathered and aged, lived in. I really hope this modern Michael Wincott, this incarnation, because he's still got that voice. I hope he'll get more film work after Nope, because he is incredible. So I'm sold on the movie. We're 45 minutes into it, and we finally start seeing, evidence of this flying thing, and everybody sets everything up to where they're going to capture this moment, and they see more and more of the thing, and finally well, okay, before I get to that, let me real quick, because this is what kicks off everything, before this thing finally comes close to them and does what it's going to do, this being. And the way it's shot is great. The size of it, the way it dwarfs things, the geography is great. I mean, this is just, movie's just beautifully, beautifully, beautifully shot. And very measured, suspenseful, keeps your interest, even though it's kind of a slow burn for a while. Just the characters are really sharp. I didn't expect I'd even like the movie. I thought maybe I like it okay. I can't say like I love it, but I really loved watching it. It stayed with me. So let's talk about this Jupe character, this Ricky, this young Asian American, Hollywood kind of carnivalesque performer at this place called Jupiter's Flame with his wife, and they wear cowboy garb. So he has a very traumatic past, and they do a little sequence. They veer off, and they do a sequence called Gordy. He titles some of his sequences. So it's very much in this kind of modern, kind of, not want to say non-linear in this case, a little non-linear, but, the title card kind of thing, that kind of became popular in the postmodern era, like in the 90s, and with Tarantino and a lot of directors and Anderson, and even like Marvel used it really, really well in Civil War and Captain America: Civil War and Winter Soldier. So they do that, and the Gordy sequence. Basically, Ricky plays this kid named Mikey, and it's a contrived like mid '90s sitcom. And so the premise is that this, kind of veering a middle age, kind of well off family, not like rich like Mr. Drummond, who adopted the black kids on different strokes, but nonetheless they adopt this kind of sardonic, funny Asian kid named Ricky. Now that kind of show didn't exist back then. It would now, but that's what's cool about it, because it's like it's a riff on those kind of shows. Shows like Different Strokes, Family Matters, and it has a chimpanzee. They have a chimpanzee named Gordy that lives with them, so it's called Gordy's Home. So it has the Harry and the Hendersons. It's got all the shticks in one show. And like those shows, they show an episode being filmed of Ricky's birthday, and I like all those to me those shows, and I include all kinds of really bad sitcoms from that period, like Fresh Prince of Bel Air. To me, I saw it at work, and it's unwatchable. I mean, trash to me. It's kind of like the current Disney Plus shows that are pandering to young Zoomers, except those are even more hollow and badly made. But the '90s had, these shtick shows. But in a way, I like those family sitcom shtick shows. I do like them much better than the ones that thought they were really clever, like Friends or Seinfeld. I don't like those shows either. I mean, there's been some good writing in Seinfeld, but I don't care for Seinfeld and most of the cast. I like Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I followed her from Saturday Night Live all the way to Marvel now. But yeah, I mean, I really hated sitcoms from the mid '80s all the way on, um, with a few exceptions. Uh, but I can't say they were all trash. I mean, they served their cultural function, I guess. But this is a riff on that. He doesn't go deep into that kind of point of view like I am. But I think on the surface, it's there like, oh, they were all those sticks in one. The little funny family, mom and dad, and the dad's a little extent, befuddled or absent-minded, whatever, airhead. And the mom's like real hyper and says like goofy shit, and then you have the laugh track. And then little Ricky does all the little mugging and little reaction shots, and he makes all the incisive humor in it. They show that he's kind of smarter than these dumbass white adopted parents. And then you've got the chimpanzee, of course, Ricky and the chimpanzee gets into hijinks. So they don't detail all this. A lot of this is implied. A lot of it is based on references and references made in passing. The first time that the Haywoods meet, Jupe, I mean, they may not have known him before. I'm not sure, but the first time they can meet him in the movie to hype this idea to them, to pitch it to him. He talks about how everything fell apart for his child acting career because on the set of Gordy's home, the chimpanzee went crazy. And there's a very quick flash of a young Asian boy with blood spatter on his face. So wow. Okay, so when they get to the Gordy chapter, they act it out the whole episode. And essentially something sets off Gordy and he just fucking massacres the adopted sister character, I believe. Yes, the older sister is the older white character. She's the adopted sister of Ricky. So he massacres her after he kills the mom, I believe. Maybe she gets away. It happens real frantically. He chases down the dad who's been hiding, the actor playing him. The set is completely emptied. The camera's taking all the way through it, and all the technical people are gone. And I guess they're trying to get security or cops. But the dad was too afraid, and so was our man Ricky, who played Mikey Houston, and little Jupe, and he hides under a table, and he's watching as this chimpanzee just destroys this girl, and you only see her like her lower body sticking out from behind this sofa, but when the chimpanzee emerges, he's just covered in blood, and then he chases down the actor playing the goofy dad and kills him. And then he approaches Ricky, and Ricky holds out his hand like they're going to do a fist bump. And the chimpanzee looks like he recognizes Ricky and like he won't hurt Ricky, and he's about to do it, and he's shot in the head by a security guard or a cop, and the blood spatters on Ricky, which we saw earlier flashes. So there you go with the trauma. And so this is a very haunted character. Now I want to say this is the same kind of thing that Paul Thomas Anderson has done a lot too, is take like real life events and incidents and fictionalize them. And even though he's fictionalizing them, he's also kind of bringing them to life, and they're things that are very memorable, either very crazy, very weird, eccentric, or sick. He did a good bit of this in Boogie Nights. And this is his incidents, because in real life, a woman was attacked by her pet chimpanzee. She was massacred in the same way as the sister character, who, by the way, survived. She does stop moving in the flashback, but we then later learn she has survived. Now, the woman in real life, she lost her hands. Her hands were mauled so much from defensive wounds they had to be amputated, and her face, she was blinded permanently. Her face was like mostly torn off and partially eaten by the chimpanzee. And it was really a wake up call, like, oh, chimpanzees are all sweet and cuddly, and it's like not always. And as Chimp was put down, and just as in the movie, so the movie really copies this kind of incident closely, even though the characters and circumstances are totally different. It's a situation where they think that chimpanzee is just a fun kind of part of the family, and it goes savage, berserk, and mutilates someone permanently. In real life, the chimpanzee did not kill anyone before it was dispatched, but that woman was ruined. They tried to do a hand implant on her, the first hand implants, and it seemed successful, but they were rejected. So I think she's using some kind of prosthesis now. Most recent pictures I've seen, they rebuilt her face. They did a face transplant, which was pretty revolutionary when this was done. She is still blind. For a long time, she wore this hat with this dark veil which covered her whole face. So, I mean, she was already blind, so it doesn't really matter if it's completely black. But basically, she publicly wanted no one to see her. Eventually, on one of those shows, like Dr. Phil or Oprah, I forgot, there's some footage of her being revealed after the face transplant, and her eyes are closed. She's still blind, but she does have a face. She's not like the most beautiful girl out there, but I mean, who cares? I mean, it's functional. She has a nose, a mouth, a rebuilt jaw. She's got some muscle and flesh that's been kind of transplanted. Basically a huge chunk of another person's face that was donated. But it's not like she suddenly looks like that person, like some master plastic surgeon in fiction. It's not quite perfect even after several surgeries. And last I heard, they may do more to tweak it. May or may not try to do a hand transplant again. Basically, they're using her as kind of a guinea pig in an experiment to further these technologies, surgical technologies. And she's willing because what the fuck? What does she have to lose? The only thing she's lost really permanently, for sure, is her sight. But everything else is or can be, is or can be restored somewhat, enough to where she's a functional person again. And that's good. And when Jupe does his little public thing, which only 40 or 50 people attend and some camera people, basically he's going to unveil the UFO as it passes through the clouds, and he's going to film it, and he's going to I don't know, it's like a big event thing that him and his wife put on, and it's a little different than the ones they put on before. I don't know if they did rodeos or what out there, but they did stuff involving horses, and that's because they got the horses from the Haywoods. So the UFO comes, and this thing opens up in the bottom, and it basically eats everyone and spits out like metal and coins and plastic and all this kind of stuff, hard plastic and wood that it can't digest. And that's where all the rain of objects and flotsam came from, and that's what killed Otis Sr. And once it's sucked up all these people from Jupiter's claim, it hovers over the Haywood house and then drops out all of the spewage that it can't digest, and a rain of blood comes, and whenever it's within a certain range, it cuts off all electricity. It's like an electromagnetic pulse. He's really thought this thing out, and so to hurry the video up along, essentially after that big incident, they team up with Antlers Holst and Michael Wincott and convince him to come and film this, and he films it with a crank, old school crank camera that can be, non-electricity. And they're going to capture this. And Angel, the guy from the electronics store, is going to be his assistant doing this. Meanwhile, OJ and Emerald are going to kind of bait the thing, and they're going to use one of their horses as kind of a bait, as something to eat. And I mean, they don't want them to actually be eaten. But there's a funny line where they're like, and Antler's just like, yeah, use one of those horses. And the Angel's like, I don't know, man, they might be horse people. And I don't know if he means horse people like liking horses, but I took it as like alien horse people, like in the movie Sorry to Bother You with Lakeith Stanfield, a graduate of Peele stuff. That's just what I took it as an in reference. Maybe I'm wrong. So it comes and Antlers has got to get the shot. He's like the frantic dudes, like the guy in Nightcrawler or Alan in Cannibal Holocaust, or Faye Dunaway in Network, or he was like, okay, yeah, Crocodile Hunter or whatever. All these people, you got to die. If you got to die, it's okay as long as you get the shot. I'll do anything for the shot. And there's numerous other examples littered throughout history and fiction, and I'm blanking on them, so you can fill those in. I just threw a few out that came to mind. We've got to get the film back to the States, Alan, as they're being eaten by cannibals in Cannibal Holocaust. Keep shooting, and that's the big found footage thing, film thing. And there you get, like the reporter in Wreck, which I think is one of the great modern found footage horror films. And so Antlers does this, and it eats him, and it tries to eat Angel, but he wraps this wire around himself, and the thing can't digest it, and it spits him out, and he's mostly okay. And eventually, the siblings use different tactics to lure the thing, and finally, a little unbelievable. There is someone from the media who's like completely dressed, completely disguised, like a motorcycle helmet, not see through, and tall black, and he's like this sinister kind of reporter guy who's like trying to get in on it and get all the shots and give it to like TMZ like media, I guess. And he ends up dying because he hits the force field of electricity, and motorcycle goes down. He goes flying, and he's OJ tries to save him, but it's too much. So OJ gets on the horse and rides, and the thing eats this guy. So no one's going to spoil their plan to be, have first dibs on this. So they didn't deliberately do that, but they kind of like let it happen, and then left him there, and they were going to save him because it's like, oh well, so it works out for us. This is unspoken. I'm reading between the lines. So it's really weird. And M manages to lure this thing into Jupiter's claim, and she cranks it up, and she sends this giant inflatable big boy like thing that you've seen before in it. You haven't seen it fully inflated. It's huge, and it goes up into it, and I don't know what it does. I don't know if it kills it, it gives it indigestion. But the thing is, by this time has opened up and spiraled out into all these, designs. It doesn't look solid, it doesn't look like an animal. It doesn't look like plastic or metal. It kind of looks like cloth and paper and different kinds of my brain's going blank. Textiles, is that right? Different kinds of textiles. Different kinds of fabric, and it's just like almost like a balloon that's unfolding in these psychedelic, but it's got this gaping mouth in the middle that's trying to suck everything into it. So that's when the movie, I don't want to say goes off the rails, but to me it wasn't wholly satisfactory. Visually, it was pretty cool, and she manages to kill the thing with seemingly with the big boy balloon, which is a little weird. I don't know. And she manages to take pictures with this really old crank carnival camera of the thing, and of the thing descending and unfurling and being blown up by the big boy balloon. And so they've got it, they've won, and she sees OJ, and there's a long pause where she's just looking. Really nice held shot on her, and then you see him, and you hear spaghetti western style, Ennio Morricone kind of music. I don't know who did the music. And it's in the gateway of Jupiter's claim. You see OJ sitting on that horse, like a cowboy of old, and he's her hero. He's her brother. They've survived, and so that little human element is kind of, I guess, always going to be in Peele's stuff. A kind of a compassion or humanism, which I like, even though a lot of his characters suffer horrible fates, good and bad. And not either kind of characters get killed. Um, so they bumped off Ricky and Ember and Antlers uh, and the nasty media motorcyclist. So it's like I thought at least one of the siblings was going to die. I thought Angel was going to die, but they emerge, and then there's really nothing after that. It's just like, and there's a lot of times when they're talking early in the movie and they're talking about things they could do, and the two siblings play them off of each other. Like, are you going to check this out? Are you going to look at that? Like, to investigate this mystery in this situation, or to go and pitch these ideas. And every time these kind of incidents comes up and is presented, one of them says, Doje or Emerald says, nope. And if they're really emphatic, like they're backing away from it, like, nope, 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 nope. So that's where the title Nope comes from. I thought it was a ridiculous title, but I knew it had to have some kind of just in-joke meaning. And because I didn't understand all of the dialogue because of the way I watched it, the format, there's maybe incidents of Nope before I started hearing it, and maybe it explains it even further. Maybe it's something their granddad said. I don't remember him saying that, but maybe he did. I don't know. But it's just kind of like a little thing between the two and their reluctance on this, getting into this whole over their head thing of coping with this extraterrestrial and then trying to somehow capture it, captures images rather, and not get killed. So that's it, man. That's that. I'm gonna cut off this video because I don't really want to talk for a long, long time about some other movies. But this one I went into more depth with because it was a recent kind of big movie, and I only just finally saw it. And it's definitely a horror movie, suspense movie, science fiction movie, though it is very understated. It's pretty inscrutable. I feel like a lot of the people who may have went to see it were confused by it. I was confused by it until, well into the movie. But I was into that world he's crafting of these very interesting and kind of tragic, very human characters. Uh, the extraterrestrial angle really was it was well shot, but it wasn't anything new visually. And I think he went minimalist with this kind of weird balloon flag kind of kaleidoscope unfurling thing from the saucer shape and with the big mouth, big sucking round mouth. I think he went with the minimalism to be different, not to have a big craft or ship. And the first time OJ says, maybe it's not a ship, maybe it's an animal. It's like, okay, now we're thinking deep into this, because he OJ himself is kind of an inscrutable character, but minimalist acting and economic dialogue. But Kaluuya is, to me anyway, I can't take my eyes off the guy when he's on the screen. He just has a presence, even though he's playing a character who's pretty unassuming, who's holding a lot inside, but he knows a lot. He's clever, and he rises to this challenge, this situation. So anyway, that's my psychoanalysis of Nope. I don't know how on the money I was, but that's another kind of borderline genre movie. So that's my Halloween stream number 3. I'll be back in the next episode. Like I said, last episode, I promise, but this time around, I'm pretty sure the next episode, we'll have maybe be an hour, and we'll cover at least 2 films, if not more. I'll have less to say and less analysis and more of, hey, this is what this movie's about. You should check it out, or God, this movie was horrible. It sucked. Maybe I don't recommend it. Either way, thanks a lot. Take care. I appreciate all of you guys watching and supporting me.